Hello friends, welcome back to another session of Spring Boot. So far what we have studied, let's see that one in Spring Boot. So we have seen the introduction of a Spring Boot configuration, data JPA, Spring MVC, Spring REST, the various topic of Spring REST API, like handling URI data, exception handling, REST client, and Spring Doc using Swagger documentation API. So the very basic question that generally interviewer ask actually, that is why we need Spring Boot. It's a very basic question from where it is starting. So today in this session we will explore some of the use case so that we will understand why we need Spring Boot. So let's see the definition once again first, and then we will come to the use case. So Spring Boot is a lightweight framework. This is developed on top of Spring only. Spring Boot internally using Spring libraries, Spring modules only. So Spring Boot is a lightweight framework which is used to build application Spring application fastly and easily. Spring Boot is a framework that use Spring framework and simplify the development. Very simple. Just to simplify the work. How we will simplify the work? If generally will ask, you say it is okay, Spring Boot will simplify the development work. How it will simplify? We will see that one. And Spring Boot use a new development modules for quickly building Spring application with very little configuration. We will see very less configuration. How the configuration will be less, we will see that also. Spring offer a powerful way to build a web application with support for dependency injection, transaction management, polyglot persistence, application security, first-hand REST API. So all these we can include the libraries in our application, and we can build our application very fastly. So this is the major use of Spring Boot. Spring Boot project aims to make building web application with Spring much faster and easier. Okay. And Spring Boot is opinionated, customizable. We have already seen it has a starter, this has auto configuration, this has actuators. We have already seen that one. Okay. And here are the some of the important features of a Spring Boot also. So Spring Boot has a starter. What is starter? We'll see. Spring Boot has a some of the starters. Spring Boot has a configuration, auto configuration. What will do auto configuration? It has an initializer. It has a boot CLI. This has a dev tool also, and this is also used for externalized configuration. It support YAML, yet another markup language support also. Instead of .property file, we can use YAML file also. And Spring Boot web application has an embedded container also, embedded Tomcat, or if you want to do any other container you want to embed, you can do that one. This has actuator and Spring Boot admin. We will see this Spring Boot admin. What is this actuator? Thoroughly we will see in upcoming session. We will start Spring security and Spring microservices. So all these we will see in upcoming sessions. Okay. So first thing, the first question, why to use Spring Boot? So the first question is to reduce the number of Maven dependency. First, dependencies, Maven dependency is nothing but the Java libraries that we have to include in our project so that we can do some development. Same like C++, Java has a library, and the library that we are adding in our project, we are using some build tool. Build tool is our Maven or Gradle. Either you can use Maven or Gradle, it's up to your choice. Because Gradle is internally using Maven dependencies, Maven libraries repository only. Okay, using Spring Boot starter. So how Spring Boot is reducing the number of Maven dependency by using Spring Boot starter. So what is Spring Boot starter? Spring Boot starter is used to reduce the dependency of your Java application, such as that can be a JPA, Hibernate, data source, any other dependency. It will automatically add using Spring Boot starter. And Spring related library, any other library, whatever library Spring related, it will automatically add with the very minimal dependency. Okay, Spring Boot starter like data JPA starter, Spring Boot security starter. So Spring Boot starter are so many, like Spring Boot starter, like JPA starter, security starter, Spring Boot web starter, Spring Boot theme leaf starter, jdbc starter. So many starter are there. So that all starters we will use, and by using that starter, Spring Boot will automatically add the required dependency. If I will show you, if I will give you one example, I want to develop an application using MySQL and jdbc. One standalone application I want to develop using jdbc and MySQL database. What should I do? I need to add the JPA related libraries. I need to add jdbc library or jdbc implementation like MySQL or any other. We need to add that library, and we need to create the templates, we need to create a data source. So many things we need to do manually. So instead of that one, we will directly specify jdbc starter. Similarly, if I say I want to develop an application, a standalone application using Hibernate and MySQL database. So in that case, what we need to add the libraries, we need to add the Hibernate related all the libraries like Hibernate core, Hibernate core, and Hibernate other annotations, Hibernate validations, other libraries. Even JPA will be coming, because Hibernate is the implementation of JPA. So JPA and all the libraries we need to add. So if I say we want to start JDBC, JPA will automatically add the libraries. So let's see this example first. So I'm creating one simple Maven project. I'm not creating any other project like Spring Boot project or any other project without including any archive type. Simple Maven project I am creating. I'm giving here name my Maven Maven demo, my Maven demo. Okay, artifact ID, okay, artifact ID, version you can give any of them. Okay, you can keep this one, or if you want to give any other, you can give whatever you want to do. Group ID will be com dot, this is your group ID. Group we know that is uniquely identifying tech hub, com dot tech hub. Okay, artifact ID my Maven demo. Okay, name is same, my Maven demo. Description you can give anything, my Maven demo sample project, simple. Okay. That's it, I think. Just click on finish. So if you see here Java 1.7 is added automatically. Anyway, this is old version, but let it be for now. We will update this one through Maven. Next, if you see here, there is nothing no library, there is no library. So library or dependencies where we will add, if I want to add any library here, like MySQL related library I want to add, how I will add here? What we need to do, we need to add that inside Maven dependency only. So in the dependency, if we add dependencies, sorry, dependencies, spelling dependencies. In this one we need to add the dependencies. Dependencies like which dependency? Dependency will have group ID, one dependency. This is a dependencies tag. Inside this one there can be n number of dependencies. Dependency will have a group ID, dependency will have a artifact ID, artifact ID, and dependency will have the version. These three things will be there. This will have a version also. Suppose I want to add the MySQL dependency, or else I suppose I want to add Hibernate related dependency. How I should do? So let's come here and Hibernate Maven dependency. Simple. Let's come here. So this is the Hibernate Maven dependency 6.3.0. This is a move to Hibernate core. Okay. So this one is the dependency. If you see here, dependency is having group ID, artifact ID, and version. So once I add this one here inside this dependency, if I add here in this dependency, and if I save this file, our our Maven will automatically download this dependency from the Maven central repository. It's downloading. If you can see here, it is downloading. See, it's downloading and building, downloading the source and Java docs. This is giving size, and see, you can see it is downloading from which one? HTTP Maven, some repository. It is downloading. And if you see here Maven dependency, once you added Hibernate ORM, this many dependencies came, because this dependency jar required some other jar also. This is one jar only. We need to add JPA, even this is JPA, and other jar also we need to have. So like that, multiple jars we need to add. Suppose you understand like that, I want to develop the application using a web application using Spring MVC and Hibernate. So Spring related libraries I need to add. Suppose if I say, if you see here, Spring Maven dependency, so Spring Maven dependency. So here this is a Spring core. Spring will have a lot of dependency: Spring context, Spring web, Spring core, Spring bean, Spring web MVC. So one way you can go to this dependency, you can select the version, the latest version, copy this one and just add in the pom.xml. This will automatically download. So this is only Spring context. Now you need Spring bean. So many are there for Spring. If you see here the list of Spring dependencies, lot of dependencies are there. Spring context, Spring test, Spring web. You can see Spring web. You need Spring web also. The similar way you have to add that Spring web also. You have to select the version and you have to add similarly. Okay, copy this one and just simply add. So Spring is there, Hibernate is there, Spring Core, Spring Web is there, Spring Context is there. Still we have not finished the Spring dependency. Only lot of Spring dependencies are there. Spring Beans we need, Spring Web MVC. If we are using Spring Web, we have added Spring Web, we have not added Spring Web. Oh sorry, Spring Web we have added. So if it is a web, then we need to add Spring Web MVC also, because we are going to develop the using Spring Web MVC. So like that, there are so many dependencies are there. Spring Context Support, AOP, Spring Expression Language, JMS, so many are there. So this job is very tedious. You have to manually add, and the other problem is there with this one. You have to specify the version also. You have to know the version, which version for this Hibernate core is compatible for this Spring. So here we need to add the version, and we need to check the compatibility, which version is supported with which Spring version is supported with which Hibernate, because this version may vary. So these jobs will be taken care by the Spring starter. It will automatically add the required dependency and the compatible version also. You just need to specify the version of Spring Boot and starter. Suppose now I don't want, so I want Spring Boot starter. Simply, if I add Spring Boot starter only, suppose if I delete this dependency, there is no Maven dependency now. You can see even this Maven dependency section itself is gone. It's not here because there is no dependency, so there is no Maven dependency folder. Next is, so you just need to specify the starter. So once you add the starter and you save your pom.xml, you will see is automatically adding the Spring related core libraries. What is Spring basic and core libraries? Spring Context, Spring AOP, Spring Bean, Spring Expression, Logback, logging related libraries, Spring Core, Spring JCL, Spring YAML, to read the YAML file also. So these all libraries it is adding using one only using only one starter. Other than that, if you don't want to use this one, then what you have to do, you have to add all library one by one, like this you need to add. This is a one library. This is a one. So which one will be added? Spring Context only. If you see here, Spring Context, AOP, Bean, this 4 is there, and remaining you have to add from other, so like web related. So in this way you can reduce the dependency injection. Simply, sorry, not dependency injection, dependency management. Maven dependency you can manage. And see, if you want to use Spring Boot starter web, simply just web, see automatically it is adding all the libraries. Even the Spring Boot starter is there, along with that Spring Boot starter plus web is there. Very simple. Even, and this one you can the version, if you don't want to repeat this version, then that one you can that one you can give here inside properties. Okay, this is fine. Sorry, this is the Maven version. This is okay. So in the properties, what you want to give, I want to give Spring Boot dot version, simply Spring Boot dot version, which is the Spring Boot version 3.1.2. so instead of repeating this one, what you can do here, you can give here Spring Boot version, simple, sorry, Spring Boot version, just give here Spring Boot version, that's it, it will automatically add. You can see Maven dependency. Because of only this one Spring Boot web starter web only, this is adding. If I give here Spring Boot starter JPA data JPA, I think data JPA, yeah. So if you see data JPA you are adding, it means you are going to use Spring JPA. In that case you need to have a database. Hickory data source is automatically adding, Hibernate it is automatically adding. See, you don't need to add Hibernate explicitly. You also don't know the latest version. You might be know the latest version, but what is the compatible version with your application, you have to do that analysis. Instead of that one, if you directly use Spring Boot, it will automatically use. You no need to worry anything about it, it will automatically do. So in this one, even this version, see currently we are specifying this version manually. So how we will resolve this one? So for that purpose, what we need to use, sorry, so we need to use Spring Boot plugin, Spring Boot Maven plugins, because plugins is required for what? Suppose we have added all the dependencies like Spring Boot web we added, or Spring Boot JDBC, Spring Boot starter JDBC we added. If we add JDBC, so the very basics dependencies, Maven dependencies, it will add for Spring framework. Along with that, it is also adding Hickory data source. You can see here the version Hickory database, Hickory data source, it is taking 5.0.1, because if you use Spring Boot version 3.1.2, and for this Spring Boot version, what is the Spring compatible version? Spring compatible version is 6.0.11. Spring version is 6.0.11, and Spring Boot version is just, you need to specify Spring Boot version only, that's it. Once you specify the Spring Boot version, automatically it will take the Spring version. And Spring version, which Spring version is compatible with which data source, it will automatically take. And what is the compatible version for Hibernate, it will automatically take. So this job is happening here. So what it is say, Spring starter like data JPA starter, Spring Boot starter, Spring security starter, Spring Boot web starter, etc. are some of the common non-starter. Spring Boot has so many other starter also other than that. Like here we have seen Spring Boot starter, Spring Boot starter web, another starter, jdbc starter, another starter, data jpa, another jpa related starter, theme leaf starter is another one. Like if you want to develop a web application that contain views, like not spring rest application, spring uh, web application using spring mvc, in that case you need to present the data in html format that has to update it dynamically. Like you want to show the dynamic page, so how will you use how will you do that one, because html is a static content only. So to make the dynamic we have to use some technology. Previously it was a JSP was used to create a dynamic project, dynamic web pages, but that is I think in the latest version, in version Springboot 3, they have removed that compatibility also. They are not going to use at all. So they have introduced new they have included a theme leaf, that is another technology that can be used to develop the dynamic web application, web pages, htmls. Okay, we will learn this later. Okay, so this is the theme leaf starter you add. Okay, actuator starter, you want to start actuator, we have already seen what is actuator, and anyway we will in our upcoming sessions, and when we will start spring microservices, we will see this actuator thoroughly, why this actuator is required. Okay, after that one you need to build. So if you see this maven dependency, sorry, what is happening, why jdbc is not building, something is not correct. Okay, let me copy this one, then jdbc starter, jdbc, correct only, spring boot starter, jdbc, spring boot starter, jdbc. Okay, fine. So now suppose we have added this spring boot dependencies here, we want to build this one. So how we will do, how we will build it, this one? So build will happen using build tag. Inside build we have to specify the plugin, we have to specify the plugins. So there are n number of plugins that is provided by your maven, but spring boot has given its own plugin that will be used to build the spring boot application. So this is that plugin, we need to add this plugin we need to add. So let's add this plugin also, because if you see the tag here, build, under build plugins, multiple plugins, like this tag can be repeated here. Now this tag can be repeated like that. So there is a one plugin that is enough for spring boot only, you no need to add multiple plugins also. That's it, very simplified approach. It's minimizing the configuration, dependency, plugins, all it is minimizing, very less code you have to write in pom.xml. We will reduce this code also, I will show you in the next now. So just one plugin you need to add to build the project, simple. Okay, next. So here you see you are specifying the version. Like if I will add another starter, like suppose I want to add spring web starter along with this jdbc, I want to start web starter also, I want to add. You can add spring boot version. I think this one is okay, yeah, this one is this one. Okay. Fine. So there are two dependencies you are specifying version every time. Just it is, you can anyway, we have centralized the version 3.1.2, we have centralized the version here, but still you need to add this version in this file only. So for that one, spring team has given a parent project, simple. You can see here spring boot starter parent. This is another starter, parent is there. For this project, one parent project is there. What is the parent project? parent project is there, Springboot starter parent, that's it. This is a parent. So just you need to add this parent project here. Once you add this parent project, it is suggesting you to remove this version because it is overriding from where it is overriding from this parent project, because inside parent it is already have the version. You can see here, just we have to specify the version 3.1.2 latest version. Okay, so you no need to specify the version here, just you can remove this version, just remove this version, not required. Okay, you can remove from here also, not required. That's it. So very minimal. Just a dependency, one plugin, that's it. Automatically it is taking from this parent version and all. Even it is automatically taking care which version we should take, which version we should avoid, which is compatible version, all it is taking, and what is the required dependency for this one, it's automatically download. Okay. So this is the one advantage that we are getting, dependency management. Okay. So to reduce the number of Maven dependency, simple, Maven dependency management, it is automatically happening. Okay. And to find the compatible version of dependency or library, compatible version also it is automatically taking. To minimize the bean definition configuration and enable auto configuration. What does it mean? It is telling we can minimize the configuration, minimize the bean definition configuration, and we can enable auto configuration also to create most of the beans automatically. So how we can do this one, that we will see now. Okay, so this is okay, that is fine. And even this version you can remove from here, and here if you see we have to add Maven plugins also to change this version. It should not be generally like okay, it is taking 7. Okay, fine. If I want to change this version, like previously this version it was taking 1.7, now it is taking 17, most latest version is taking. How? Because of this parent project, they have already specified. Still, if you want to override java dot version which version, like 14, that's it. And just you need to, I think, maven dot update project. Yeah, see, so once you you updated this one, it's automatically updating the version of java also, which version you should use. So the configurations of your project you are specifying in pom.xml. Anyway, this task, this java version task, you can do without Spring Boot also. What you need to do for that one, you need to add the plugins, Maven plugins you need to add. Okay, we will see that later when we will learn only Maven. But here our purpose is to learn why Spring Boot is required and how Spring Boot is building the application. Okay, fine. So yeah, let's change this version to 17 only. Okay, once you change this one, you might need to have update this one because it has to take this configuration. Okay, fine. Next, jdbc, even web is not required currently because we will take the demo from jdbc only. That's it. Fine. It's done. Okay, next, if you see here, java version, maven and resource, two folders are there, automatically it is taking. You can see here src main java, src main resources is there, automatically it is creating. And inside this src we have to keep our .java files, our packages and classes are there. Inside these resources we have to put the configuration file, which configuration file we already know. So what is the use of that one? To centralize the configuration data into single property file. That property file is application.property, or it can be application.yaml. YAML means yet another markup language. That extension can be YML or can be a YAML. It's a fine. Okay, so so the our next job is to see how it is minimizing the bean definition and enabling auto configuration. How, we'll see. So here if you see what starter we have added Springboot starter jdbc. It means if jdbc, what is jdbc? jdbc is Java database connectivity. You need to connect to database. Which database? What is the URL of the database? What is the username of database? What is the password of database? Where is the details? We need to specify somewhere. So it is automatically inferring. Suppose if I create here, suppose I'm just going to create main class. Okay, or else do one thing, just create a package package com dot tech hub dot mvn demo. Simple. Okay, just move to this package. Simple. Okay, so now this is your main class. So right here main method also. So in this main method, what I want, application spring application, spring boot application dot run, spring application dot run what? Main class class. Okay, and so what it is returning? It is returning a context, application context ctx application context. Okay, fine. So from this ctx we can do any operation and we can do, let it be. The second thing, the first thing it is saying enable auto configuration. How? Enable auto configuration like @enable auto configuration. What does it mean of enable auto configuration here? If you see we have already seen, it's not here. Let me open that. Enable auto configuration. What does it mean of enable auto configuration? This annotation configure all type of bean based on the class path dependency. What is our dependency? In our class? You see, our dependency is a Springboot starter jdbc. So it has to configure what? It has to configure Hickory data source. It has to configure Hickory data source, Hickory CP, because jdbc will, the job of jdbc is to connect with the database. So first Spring Boot application has to look for database details, then it has to create a database data source object, and we are saying jdbc, so it has to create jdbc template also. So all this operation, how it is doing? It is doing because of auto configuration. Simple, it's auto configuration. So that's why this auto configuration is required. Another one, this class should be also configuration, configuration, and @ component scan. What is the use of this annotation? Component scan. What is the use of this annotation? Component scan. This will scan the current the current maven current package. What is our current package? com.techhub.mvn demo. This is our current package, and any sub package that is available under this package automatically will scan and will create the object whoever is marked with stereotype annotation. We have already seen what is stereotype annotation. Stereotype annotation is @component, @service, @repository, @controller. So these annotations are stereotype annotation. Springboot has to create, Spring has to create the object for that one. So that is stereotype annotation. For that one we need to use component scan. Enable auto configuration is required to configure the beans on the basis of your starter dependency. Okay, configuration job is configuration to configure this class as a Java bean configuration. That's it. So this is okay. Now suppose I am creating one more package here. So package is service, simple. Package is service. Inside this service I am creating my service. Sorry, okay, yeah, it's correct, only refresh it. So here is a my service. So inside my service what I am doing, I am defining two dependency. One is data source, okay, data source. Another one is jdbc template. Another one is jdbc template. Simple. So this jdbc template and data source has to be injected here. Auto add. Simply, you know the meaning of this auto add. Auto add means Spring will look for the object that is running inside the Spring container type data source or type of jdbc template. It means these type of object, at least one object should be available in your Spring container, then only it will be injected. And we are not creating anywhere. If you see main class, in our main class I am not creating any data source object, or I am not creating any jdbc template object. I am not creating. In my service class also I am not creating. I am just directly injecting here. I am just adding the dependency that here. Yeah, this my service required data source and jdbc template. Another one, public void show me something. Show me. Simply what you will do in show me, just simply printing. I am not doing any other operations. Simply .toString you can print. I think data source plus this dot data source. Simple. Similarly jdbc template, this dot jdbc template. Simply I am printing. You can apply .toString also if you want. Okay, .toString, that's it. Okay, that's it. That's only I am doing here. I am not creating data source object, and I am not creating jdbc template object. Both I am not creating. And inside my main class what I am doing, I am just starting this application and I am just get bean. I am just doing the get bean of type my service dot class. That's it. So it will give here my service simply. That's it. and my service dot show me. That's it. So now if what will happen if I run, I'm what I'm telling at line number 17, I am starting the container, Spring container I am starting. Then from the container I am getting my service bean. Will it get the my service? How it will get my service? How it will get? Because of this component scan. How? Because component scan will be applied on com.techhub.mv&demo and any sub package. What is the sub package for com.techhub.mv&demo? com.techhub.mv&demo.service is the sub package. So is there any class in com.techhub.maven.demo.service package that is marked with stereo type notation? Is there? No, currently not there. My service is not marked with any of the dependencies, so we have to mark this one. Let's mark with the service, or you can mark with the component repository, any of them, no issue, but this service is suitable for this one only. Okay, so this is called enable component scan. So if you come to our second point, why we need Springboot. So second point says that to minimize the bean configuration, bean definition configuration and enable auto configuration. To minimize the bean configuration, we are minimizing the bean configuration. See, because of this starter we are able to add the data source dependency. By using this starter we are able to add the data source dependency, and with the help of component scan enable auto configuration we are able to minimize the bean definition configuration. With the help of enable auto configuration annotation we are able to minimize the bean definition configuration. How? Because if you see my service class has a two dependency, data source and jdbc template, but for these two dependencies we are not creating any object. We have not created any object in my service. We have not created any object in main class.java, because and we have these two class only in our project. So who will create the object for data source and jdbc template? Our Spring will create that one by using Spring enable auto configuration. Automatically it will configure on the basis of what starter you have added. So your Spring need data source detail, database URL, username, password. Database URL, username, password is required. Where is that one? That one we need to add into a file with application.property is the third option. Also to centralize the configuration data, we have to centralize the configuration data also. So this is the third benefit that we are getting. First benefit, we can reduce the number of Maven dependency using starter. Another one, we can enable auto configuration and create most of the bean automatically by using auto configuration. Third one, we can centralize the data. We can centralize the bean data or application data into application.property. So just copy. So just create application.property. In this property you need to specify Spring dot data data source dot URI. Some data source details we need to, I am copying from the above project we have the same details. So this is the details of data source, just I am copying from the same. Okay, so you can see here data source configuration, data spring dot data source dot url. This is our url, spring dot data source dot username, root, some password. That's it. So using this configuration, suppose if I am not configuring this one, just commenting this one. For now, just I am commenting and I am running the application, and we will see what is happening. So run Java application, simple. We'll see what happens. So you can see very clear message. It is starting a Springboot with the version is 3.1.2. Where is this version? This version we have specified in the parent project, 3.1.2. okay. It is starting that Springboot. Then after that one, it is starting main class. Yeah, it is starting main class. Then there is no profile, so it is taking a default profile application. We have already seen what is a profile. Okay. Then some exception came. What exception? Error creating bean with the name my service, unsatisfied dependency, data source is not there, that is defined inside. So what is the data source? Data source is this one, Hickory data source. It is trying to create a Hickory data source by default. So many other type of data sources are there, but the best data source that in term of performance is a Hickory data source. So Spring team is using Hickory data source. You can customize this one also. You have to include, exclude, you have to write here in this pom, you have to use include, inclusion, something like that, and exclusion, inclusion, something like that. Simply you can use. Okay. So it is looking for the data source detail, and what is there? It is saying failed to configure data source, URI attribute not specified, and no embedded data source. So in that case, what we need to do, we need to give the data source detail. So yeah, I am specifying the data source detail. And if suppose I will give the URI, currently I am just commenting this too also, just URI. It is asking for URI, data source URI. Yeah, I have given the URI. Then password and username I am not giving. Just run again and see. So this configuration is automatically doing. It's not able to create again. And yeah, first thing, driver itself is not found now. What is driver? Driver is also, yeah, we need to add the driver, like which database we want to use. Either we want to use MySQL, or either we want to use MySQL or Postgre or Oracle, whichever database we want to use. We have to tell, we need to add the dependency for that one, whatever the data source we want to use. So I want to use MySQL, and here also if you see, I am not specifying the version, only the scope. You can remove the scope, no issue. You can remove, it's a runtime scope, while running it will add, otherwise this will not be there. That is okay. Scope you can give runtime or default scope, that is okay. Version you are not specifying. If you see here, if you go to Maven dependency, MySQL connector is there. See, 8.0.3. If I will delete this one, so this is removing, and if I will add here, will come. See, this one, whatever is selected. Downside, if you see, if I delete it, will not be there. See, there is a question mark, there is nothing. This dependency itself is not there. Once you add, dependency will come and the version will automatically come, 8.0.3. so that's why it is saying to find the compatible version of dependency, it is automatically find. So here we are reading 4 advantages only. in upcoming sessions we will read more advantage of Spring Boot also. This is the 4 advantage. First advantage, we can reduce the number of Maven dependency using Spring Boot starter. Second one, if we use Spring Boot starter, the compatible version also it will automatically download. You no need to worry about that one. Third one, we can minimize the build definition configuration to enable auto configuration, and we can centralize the configuration into property file or YAML file. Okay, so here just we have added this Maven MySQL dependency also, MySQL connector jar. So now if I run now, what error we will get? Let's see. Yeah, so now it is telling failed to configure data source URI attribute is not specified, but URI we have specified. No? What happened? URI we have specified. What happened? Sorry, it was sorry, I think, yeah. Okay, see, I think before I was showing you for this Maven demo. For this Maven demo, I was showing you Maven dependency. Sorry. See the dependency of Maven, my Maven demo. Here, there is no MySQL. MySQL connector jar is not there. Once I add the MySQL connector jar, it will automatically come. See which jar? 8.0.33. Automatically it is adding. If I remove from here, it automatically removing. And when I add, it is coming. But version, it's automatically taking the compatible version for this Spring Boot version. Whatever Spring version we are taking for that one, what is the compatible version? It's automatically taking. You don't need to worry about. You don't need to specify. I need this version only. So this is the another advantage. Next, so let's just do build once. How will you do? Clean and package. That's it. Run. Let's see. Might we give some problem? Okay, it's fine. Now if you see, we have specified URI, but when we running, it is giving what error? Because we have commented username and password. Okay, how username and password it is not taking, still it is creating. Okay, but yeah, might be the connection will not be there. Data source by default, what is the username and password? Default it is taking some root, but that is not the way. Like we need to pass username and password also, so that it will connect. Otherwise we will not get the connection. It will, while getting the connection with the wrong username and password, it will give the error. Okay, so now what is happening here? If I run this one now, you will see so it is creating data source and jdbc template, both it is creating. How we have not configured data source and jdbc template object anywhere. We have not configured anywhere, so that's why it is creating most of the bean automatically. Enable auto configuration and to create most of the bean automatically. Simple, that's it. Just you need to add the starter. On the basis of starter, you enable the auto configuration, and once you enable auto configuration, it automatically create the required bean. Just you need to pass the bean data. Where you have to pass in application.property file. You can see that is passed in our application.property file. So like that we can leverage the use of Spring Boot. This is the use of a Spring Boot. Okay. And one more thing, the last. See, this 3 annotations is also not required. It is also reducing the code. You can add another point here. Spring Boot is also reducing the code. You no need to add these 3 dependencies. These 3 dependencies, the combination of @Springboot application. Simple. If you add only the Springboot application annotation, enough. You don't need to add the above 3 dependency also. This dependency, if you open this dependency, you will see this is the combination of a Springboot configuration, enable auto configuration, component scheme or configuration. If you see Springboot configuration, I think this is again extending configuration. See configuration, Springboot configuration, I think they have newly added or okay fine. Springboot configuration, or you can use configuration, same. So this 3 annotation is also not required, only Springboot application is enough. So just if you run it, you will see is working fine. But to adding this manually, like we have, suppose this this project or whatever we have created, that was a normal Maven project only. That was the only normal Maven project, but we modified the pom.xml and we made this one as a Springboot project. This project my Maven demo, it was the pure Maven project. It was pure Maven project only, but we modified the pom.xml as per our requirement and we made this as a boot application, Springboot application. We can do that one. To reduce that also, Spring team has given start.spring.io. So this will help you to create the Springboot project automatically. By default now they are using Gradle. You can use Maven also, Java language you can use. Version also you can select. The current version is 3.1.2. that is a stable version of a Spring Boot, 3.1.2. so suppose if you have to change here 3.1.2, correct only, yeah, 3.1.3, sorry, this current stable version of a Spring Boot is 3.1.3. we are using here 3.1.2, so 3.1.3 you can use, no issue. That's it. Automatically this Spring Boot jdbc and Spring Boot MySQL related jar, jdbc related jar, Spring Hickory data source related jar, Spring Boot related jars automatically will update. Just you need to update here the version, that's it. 3.1.3, that's it, it will come. And if I run this one, so previously if you see what was it showing, 3.1.2. now if I run this one, it will give 3.1.3. that's it, see. And it is what happened, we have specified, no, why? I think we need to build it. I haven't built. Previously it was building, but once we changed the version to the one upper version, why it is not running? It should run anyway, it should run. Okay, sometimes what we need to do, we need to update the project, or sometimes we need to build. We have 2-3 option here. One, just refresh if it's not. Second, right click here, go to Maven, update the project and try. Third one, go to right click on the project, go to Maven, update project, do force. Still if it is not working, then do Maven build, clean and package. We have command already given, it will build. After building this successfully, you try, it will run. That errors sometime will not be relevant, but it's okay. Yes. Okay, so this is the main points. For that one we are using Spring Boot. Why we are using Spring Boot? In the upcoming sessions we will also see some more points why we should use Spring Boot. Lot of other are there like actuators. I think we have already seen actuators, but some other features are also there that Spring is providing. Still we need to use. Okay, so that's all for this session only, and thank you, have a nice day, and we will see you in the next session. Bye bye.